Many have bemoaned Skyrim's melee combat system as overly simplistic, unengaging, or just bad. It was never going to be as responsive and stylish as something like Devil May Cry, or as polished and well-defined as a Souls game, but it is far from the attack mashing stat check that many accuse it of being. So many players seem to want to lower the difficulty and dive into combat headfirst, swinging a warhammer with reckless abandon, and just watching their enemies all fall down. If you prefer to play this way, that's absolutely fine, but then you don't get to complain that Skyrim's melee combat is boring because you're choosing to play that way. Got it? But there is hope. This guide will walk you through how to add some finesse and strategy for a more reactive, engaging, and satisfying tactical melee experience. I'm gonna get this out of the way first. These mods help if you have access to them, but they aren't necessary for much of this guide. Most of the tips in this video will apply to the vanilla game, but if you have access to mods, I highly recommend installing these to vastly improve your experience. Wildcat adds improved enemy AI, stamina management, timed blocking, and optional injury and opportunity systems. It's a great baseline overhaul. Ordinator provides more support for timed blocks through the block skill tree and perk choices directly supporting new gameplay styles. I recommend the Nemesis version of TK Dodge for reduced input latency. This one adds a dodge roll with adjustable invincibility frames and attack canceling for blocking at any time, which supports the timed block mechanic and makes the simple act of moving around the battlefield more engaging. Finally, I recommend Mortal Enemies, or any attack commitment mod really. This makes it so that neither the player character nor enemy NPCs can change attack direction during a power attack. So enemies will not be able to track you when you try to dodge to either side during their running power attacks. This adds some heavy consequences to mistiming a big power attack and makes active defense more fun. I'll have links to all these in the description. Since the game ends when you run out of life, I like to take a defense-first approach to my gameplay. But I employ the concept of active defense, which I find to be very fun and engaging. Your first line of active defense is spacing. Versus long-range enemies, the goal is to close the distance as fast as possible, taking the least amount of damage possible. With archers, arrows are physical projectiles that can be both blocked and dodged. You can strafe from side to side to get the archer to miss a shot and then sprint forward as they draw the bow for a second shot. Rinse and repeat until you're close enough to open up your melee offense while they attempt to swap to another weapon. You can also just raise your shield and walk forward. The shield sprint perk is a faster and more stylish way to accomplish this. Against mages, spells are not physical, so can't be blocked unless you have a ward spell or spellbreaker equipped. Projectile spells can be dodged, but they are typically much faster than arrows and often have an area of effect splash damage, so it's not ideal. The vanilla block tree adds 50% elemental spell resistance to your block, reducing damage on your way. But that other 50% is gonna hurt at high difficulty levels. Ordinator has a 2-rank block perk called Apocalypse Proof that can negate spell damage with a timed block, which can be a great way through a spell barrage. And there are a few tactics that work well against both mages and archers. The Become Ethereal Shout will make you invincible until you attack, allowing you to run right through ranged attacks to close in on your attacker. Ice Form will freeze the enemy in place, allowing you to approach safely. A single Foosh Shout will cause a stagger, allowing you plenty of time to get to an advantageous range. You can use all 3 words for a full knockdown, but it takes far longer to cool down. A single Foosh Shout cools down very quickly, allowing you to use it again if needed. And finally, if you have a dodge mod installed, try to time forward dodge rolls through the projectiles to quickly and stylishly close the distance. Now moving on to two-handed attackers. At mid to long range, enemies will almost always perform a forward running power attack. Try to dodge these to either side. This is easier with attack commitment mods, dodge mods, or high movement speeds. Use this opening to close the distance and start looking for a block bash. If they do this at close range, you can interrupt them with a much faster block bash, causing a stagger and an opening for your own offense. Be very careful with the timing here though. Trading a bash with a two-handed power attack is not a favorable exchange for you. If you don't have the time or reach to land the bash, just stand your ground and block the thing. It might hurt, but you'll probably survive. At short range, enemies will typically attack with standing regular and power attacks. These are typically slow enough that you can dance in and out of range to bait these out. And then when they whiff, you can use their slow recovery speed to close the distance for a block bash to open up your own offense. Moving on now to enemies with one-handed weapons. At mid to far range, they will almost always perform a running power attack much like the two-handers. Once again, try to dodge these to either side. This is going to be easier with attack commitment mods, dodge mods, or high movement speeds. Use this opening to close the distance and start looking for a block bash. And if they try to do this at close range, just interrupt them with a much faster block bash of your own, causing a stagger and an opening for your own offense. And at close range, enemies will typically opt for standing, regular, and standing power attacks. These are typically too fast to dodge, so you'll need to stand your ground and try to beat them to the punch with quick block bash jabs, fishing for staggers. With Wildcats and Ordinator's timed block mechanics, it is possible to react to these attacks with a timed block, which may cause a stagger and an opening for your own offense. Otherwise, your block bash will easily beat their one-handed attacks with anything but a dagger. Dagger attacks are a little bit faster, but far weaker. You should be comfortable absorbing a couple of these until you land your bash causing a stagger. Their dagger attack trading with your bash will pretty much always trade in your favor. These shouts can readily create openings to begin your offense at range, but I actually recommend only using one word of most of these. One word often works really well to create openings in a fast-paced battle as long as you're ready with the follow-up attack. And you get the great benefit of vastly reducing cooldowns, allowing you to use it again and again very quickly over the course of a battle. First up is Unrelenting Force. A single foosh shout is plenty to cause a stagger at any range. This stagger can be used to close a distance or just to start your own offensive sequence. It also cools down very quickly compared to other shouts at just 15 seconds. Next up is Become Ethereal. This makes you completely invulnerable until the shout wears off or until you attack. Again, a single word will likely give you plenty of time to close the distance and land an attack or to regain a positional advantage. And it cools down pretty quickly at 20 seconds. Alright, next is Ice Form. This will freeze an enemy in place for a while, allowing you to begin your offense at your leisure. A single word will freeze an enemy for 15 seconds, which is great. But a single word will also take a full minute to cool down, which is not great. And finally, we have Slow Time. This shout, well, slows time for a little while, making dodging projectiles and weapon swings much easier to perform. This is one that I might actually recommend all three words for. One word slows the time to 30% for 8 seconds at a 30-second cooldown. All three words slow it down to 10% for 16 seconds at a 1-minute cooldown. Double the time at a third the time scale for double the cooldown sounds like a good value proposition to me. But this is probably best used for closing out a battle instead of starting one, so that long cooldown doesn't hurt as bad. The often forgotten Block Bash is the most important melee attack in the game. Let me repeat that. The Block Bash is the most important melee attack in the game. It's your fastest attack available, beating most other attacks out clean. It's also very likely to cause a stagger, opening up the enemy to a free offensive onslaught. This technique is effective with two-handed weapons and one-handed weapons with or without a shield. But as mentioned earlier, try not to mistime a bash to interrupt a two-handed power attack. Trading with those blows will hurt a lot. So if you're not confident with the range or timing, just block it. You'll get staggered, take some damage, but you'll likely survive. When spacing fails and block bashing won't reach, you may be forced to just block an incoming attack. If you're running Wildcat or Ordinator, try your best to land a timed block. This means timing your block within 1 second of when the attack lands. This will block more damage, likely cause a stagger on its own, and potentially proc several perks in Ordinator's block tree. This gets much easier with practice, and in my opinion makes melee combat in this game much more fun. So give it a try, don't get discouraged, and you'll be parrying everything in no time. Now if you're getting swarmed by multiple enemies, or get caught off guard and don't feel like you can land a timed block, a regular block is far better than just absorbing the attack. With proper perks and block skill level, you can block up to around 97% of incoming damage with an untimed block. This is far better than the 85% passive damage reduction you get at the armor cap, especially on legendary difficulty at high levels. No shame in just holding that shield up. Bashing is equally effective with a two-handed weapon, maybe even more important since blocking with a weapon is less effective than blocking with a shield. It's also much faster than even your regular attack, which is so slow that it can be hard to find an opening for. Focus hard to cause either a whiffed attack, timed block, or block bash to cause a stagger for your opening. Once you have that opening, counter with a power attack, not a regular attack. The two-handed regular attack is slow enough that an enemy might be able to recover and block, rendering your efforts basically useless. But the two-handed power attack will blow through an enemy's block, causing a lot of damage and another heavier stagger. And at this point, you'll have time to land a couple of regular attack swipes for even more damage. And then just rinse and repeat, fishing for that stagger and another opportunity to land a staggering power attack. Bashing is equally effective with and without a shield. It's maybe even more important without a shield, since you won't have the benefit of the added block damage reduction and armor rating with the shield. You'll still want to use spacing, whiffed attacks, time blocks, and block bashes to cause a stagger to create an opening. Focus on this before starting your own offense. Once you land a stagger or dodge, get within range and then land a regular attack, followed quickly by a power attack. If timed correctly, your regular attack will be cancelled into your power attack, landing both before the enemy can recover. With faster weapons like daggers and lighter swords, you may be able to land 2 regular attacks, cancelling the second one into your power attack for a 3-hit combo before your enemy can recover. And then just rinse and repeat with your spacing again when the enemy recovers. I've attempted to summarize all of the tactics and high-level strategies that I employ with a melee build in Skyrim for more fun and engaging gameplay. Of course, all this stuff will take some practice and it'll feel a little bit clunky at first, especially if this is not how you're used to playing. But once you get comfortable with executing these techniques, you'll enjoy smoother combat, but as a bonus, you'll also get better looking gameplay if you like to stream or upload game footage. So give these a try and let me know what you think. Did it help? Do you have any tips for me or other viewers? Let us know in the comments. And be sure to like the video if it helped and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching and see you next time.